Vangianastis had his auctioning business there. Now it's a cane rental spaces for you could rent a cubby or a little garage space for storage for your things. So they bought that place in 1821 with lots of acres, a barn, a cider mill. Until this time, the paupers, numbering 47, were auctioned to the highest bidder to be maintained. They had that home to live in, but someone had to provide them with the food, and you would get auctioned to the highest bidder to help maybe provide the wood, provide the food for those people. So then they bought this house that we're speaking of on Lower Main Street, which belonged to Vangianastis eventually. When they moved down, built that and went down there, the town's poor. They were 26 at that time. They were removed to this poor house in 1822. Joel Cranston moved them. There were 10 rooms in the house. David Hunter, who had owned it, he lived in one end of the house because he had owned the house and he sold it. So that became the tour. So who went to live in a poor farm? If you had a bad year on your crops, you had a lot of children, you could send the whole family to live at the poor farm. You couldn't go live with them. They would live there. The mother and the children would live at the poor farm. If you had bad times and couldn't feed your family, they could go there. Who else? There was no Social Security. It was up to your children to take care of you. If you didn't have children, or they didn't have room for you, or couldn't afford to care for you, you would go live at the poorhouse. The people who lived there could not go out. They had a fence around it. They had a housekeeper. You couldn't, like the wife and the kids, you couldn't go visit your husband once in a while. You had to live at the poor farm. So it was isolation from the community. You weren't. They also took in roomers. Someone going by who was homeless, had no place to sleep for the night, they would take him in and he would pay a little bit of board and room. These people worked on the poor farm. They all helped with the cooking or cutting the wood, or maybe they hoed the garden. But they were supposed to help run this poor farm. Among the items on the property, they had a horse, oxen, 7 cows and 4 swine, 40 bushels of corn, 30 bushels of rye, and they had 250 pounds of beef. The town would have to buy them, and then they would maybe have too many eggs and too much butter. They would sell it to the local people. So they made money by selling their surplus. They also had to be provided for if they didn't have enough food or wood of their own. So then we go on to this northern part of Marlborough. All the transactions from Feltonville were done in Marlborough. If you wanted to vote for a law, a rule, you had to go to vote. You had to rent a horse for 50 cents to go the 4 miles to the town meeting. If you wanted to register a birth, a death, or a marriage, you had to go over there. And it only earned $1 a day, and you pay 50 cents for the horse to drive you over. It was time now to separate from Marlborough. A committee of 9 is appointed, and this 9 included Francis Brigham, George Houghton, E.M. Stowe, these are the big names you saw, Silas Stewart, and James Jocelyn. He was a judge. From Bolton, they had Albert Goodrich, Caleb Nurse, Jonathan Nurse, and from Berlin, Ira Brown. Because these town borders require, they bordered with Berlin and bordered with Bolton. They were included in on the arguments of separating from Marlborough. And so this is before 1866. It took about 2 or 3 years to keep asking the court in Boston, please separate us from Marlborough. We can't go that far. We can't do our business. We want to be our own town. So they, before they even got permission for the land, they had a meeting. This committee of 9 had a meeting, Then they selected a ballot for the new town, and they recommended names for this new space that they wanted. They didn't have a town, but they needed a name to give to the state in case they did decide to give us a space to be. And so we haven't got the word. So in planning for this name, what will we call this space, Mr. Felton, George Manson said, "I'll give you the town $1,000 if you name it," because my wife was a Felton, and Felton Store and Feltonville Post Office. Name it Feltonville, please. Honorable Charles Hudson offered $500 if the town bore his name. And when he left Mr. Rice's farm, went on his own in life, Mr. Rice gave him $500. He didn't pay him much, as he went along. So $500. Now he's turning it over. If you make a library, I'll give you $500. Mr. Felton offered more. The result of the ballot by marking was they were voted then. Shall we call it Butler? 1 vote. Felton got 18. Hudson got 35. This is a meager showing of people in the town, but that was the choice. And so instead of being called the Mills and so forth, we now are going to call it Hudson. So it was finally decreed in the land court in Boston that it shall be named Hudson. Then we go on to these are some of the men that you saw, the important men, and Brigham's factory. Brigham's factory here, and he had one here. The river was in between them. Asset River is coming down between them to the fall, and then there's 2 more places down here. So where McDonald's is, with a Brigham factory, where the hardware store is, was the Brigham factory, and the 2 gas stations on the other side of the river were the Brigham factories. He used the water power, and he had all the land there, under his jurisdiction. And he raised the dam 22 inches to make a higher fall. Higher fall meant more power, so he could have more water power. These are water-powered mills. There's no electricity yet, This is just water power. So 1857, that one was built. It was, and it burned in 1882. It was brick, though. Okay, now we go on to the map of what are we asking for and what are we getting. Hudson, 1866. This is all you get. This little part here. This is all you get. Okay? But these people in Bolton, that they're just beyond Wood Square, they wanted to be in Hudson. They went to school, they worked, they bought their shopping, their store at the store, and so we wanted to buy this piece here. They wouldn't sell it. And the next year we did buy it for $10,000, 10 square miles, but they wouldn't sell it yet. So we asked Berlin, we'd make a nice line if we could have that little piece. There's a few houses there that wanted to be part of Hudson as well. So they wanted to buy this piece. Berlin, no way. You don't get any of our land. We also have, this is Worcester County. We're also changing the county line. That's very important to the government in Boston. We're changing Worcester County line because here, which if we take this here, this is the line now, or then. So now we're going to have to remove the line because Hudson is in Middlesex County, including that piece. So we're not just changing a town line, we're changing a county line. And that requires a lot more argument, a lot more laws. And so here is the map next map will show you what we did buy from Bolton. Next year, a year later, they did prevail. The people who lived there did prevail upon having the vote passed that they will sell this land to Hudson for $10,000. This piece you're looking at right there. I think there's hills. This Phillips Hill up there. This is Central Street. See those two roads? They come right together in Wood Square. They're both heading for Wood Square. So here's the first house, the Cox house, right here, through there. And the roads when they intersect will be Wood Square. So here's Central Street going out here, and Lincoln Street. And these people hit Coolidge, all over Central Street, all the Coolidges there. Silas Coolidge had 17 children. They all built homes on Central Street. It's called Coolidgeville. So next one shows us today. We have now bought Bolton. This is in 2010 today. You can see the streets that are there, how 495 has come in. We still have a chunk of Berwyn that we would like, but we've given up on that. Berwyn doesn't want to budge on that one. But you can see where it would have been nice to have that, because when you go out River Street, now you go into Berwyn and back into Hudson. We live out that way. And so you'd go in and out of the town there very quickly. They also put a little piece over here. Someone in Stowe wanted to be in. I didn't want to be in Hudson. They went around his farm. The next one shows Judge Jocelyn. James Jocelyn, who did so many arguments for the separating of the town from Marlborough, and his wife there. James Jocelyn denies that taking less than 1 square mile will leave Berwyn too small to function. Every county in Massachusetts has many towns of less than 1,000 inhabitants. This is back in 1866. James Jocelyn, Esquire, speaks further before the Legislative Committee. The town lines, county lines, and even state lines have been changed to accommodate as few as one homeowner on occasion. Hudson is only asking for such a consideration. So the first town meeting is called for March 31, 1866. Hudson then is 1 week old. March 19th was when the bills were signed in Boston in the land court. March 19, 1866. So it's 12 days later. We have our first town meeting. The town boards are elected, and the officers are elected. So we'll go back to Wilbur Brigham. This is him when he's about maybe in his 50s, this lower picture. And then when he's older, a little more portly, maybe 1898 or so over here. And that's his home, up on Brigham Street. It became the Keith Mansion after he died, after Wilbur died. It became the Keith Mansion. Then it became the Hudson Hospital. Then it became the Hudson Institute. It was going to be a 4-year college. They moved up to Hosmer Street, I think, or Parmenter. And then it became the Brigham Circle. They tore the house down and made the apartments for the Brigham Circle residents that are up there.